Hello, and welcome to the Rules of Acquisition Remix. I am your host, Hugh Crawford, 1/3 of the Kickers of Elves. You can find me at HughBot_Crawford on Instagram. Today we are going to be listening to the Rules of Acquisition episode where we talk about Shadowplay. This episode was originally released October 16th, 2016. Stick around after the episode for some information, some little bit of tidbits about what we may have missed on this episode. Hope you enjoy.
Have you ever really thought about existence, man? Oh yeah. What if this is all some kind of projection, man? Oh yeah. Some geezer made a city to fill a bad A plot. Oh yeah. It's time for the Rules of Acquisition.
Okay, hello and welcome to the Rules of Acquisition, a podcast about deep Star Trek. It's a podcast about Star Trek, specifically Star Trek Deep Space Nine, the best Star Trek. Yeah, that's all.
Goddamn right.
With me as always, that's right. With me as always is James Nolan.
Hey, guys.
And also Hugh Crawford.
Hey, gentlemen.
And yes, my name is Wade Bowen, and we'll just jump right into it. We're talking about we're in the middle of season 2, I guess. This is in season 1. This is be about the time where they gave us something like Move Along Home. But what are we dealing with? That's not quite what we're dealing with today. We're dealing with a show called Shadowplay.
Yes, Shadowplay is episode 16 of season 2. It originally aired on February 20th, 1994. The IMDb description is as follows. Odo and Dax investigate the mysterious disappearance of people from a village. Kira tries to keep a close eye on Quark while Vedic Baral unexpectedly visits. Now, I'm going to tell you guys right off the bat, and it doesn't mention the C story, which is Jake gets a job that he doesn't want.
Yes.
Yeah, I was like, no A plot, B plot. We got ABC in this one.
We got ABC.
We got to pad it out.
And I want to go right off the gate. I liked this episode more than you guys probably did.
Oh, really?
Right.
I
did.
I liked parts of this episode.
There's two scenes I liked. I liked two scenes. I
like two plots, none of which were the A plot.
Okay.
Do you want me to springboard off of what I liked about it, and then we can go from there?
Yes, start talking about what you like. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, well, first off, this makes use, for the first time probably all season, of almost everybody in the cast, with the exception of Dr. Bashir.
Bashir, yeah.
But it really didn't bother me because I don't care for Dr. Bashir.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he had one little scene that I actually liked. It did something for our gripes about him not having a character. It at least helped out on that, but I'll let you, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no, that's okay. I liked the fact that all the players on board were pretty much paired up with another player. We have Odo and Dax, who I don't think I don't think there's an Odo and Dax episode for the rest of the series.
No, clearly they got this far and we're well into season 2. Who have we not put together before? Yeah. Oh shit. Okay, well, let's put Odo and Dax together, and then the first scene starts off with them. The pre-credit scene, I guess, starts off with them in a shuttle, and not in a shuttlecraft, because that's not what runabouts are, I guess. Sorry.
Come on, guys, get your ships right.
It's a runabout, which is a souped-up shuttlecraft with a warp drive on it, basically. But whatever. Nerd check.
It's a pretty big difference, Wade.
Okay, they can go up to warp 4, you know.
But you know what? I think that was a good scene because
I do too.
I do too. Yeah, it's them gossiping in the pre-credit scene.
Well, no, it brings up a really good question about Odo right off the bat from the only character that can tactfully bring it up.
Has Odo ever had sex?
Yeah.
Yeah, and well, has he ever been in a relationship with a woman? And he's like, or friends with a woman. He's like, I'm friends with Kira, and she's like, that's not what I'm talking about.
Right.
And he never says he never has because but it's basically he hasn't. But at the same time,
and I'm gonna be crass here.
Yeah.
They set him up in the initial when they introduce him. He has that whole thing talking about how he hates Klingon opera because some woman's gonna make you listen to Klingon opera.
Well, that maybe that was him speaking from experience. So I thought that might have been.
See, I thought that I read that more as like 4chan trolling. Like, I hate girls like that and make you do all this stuff, while also really saying like I would totally love a woman to make me have to listen to like Klingon, because he's lonely.
So, you're saying that he wishes he actually really likes Klingon opera and he just doesn't want to admit it?
Or just that he's like one of those, MRA guys that are just saying like, no, I don't want a woman in my life, and it's
women are bitches, man. And then he just cries because he's so lonely. Oh yeah, maybe.
What's so wrong? I get to play video games all night whenever I want to, and nobody's telling me I shouldn't eat Cheetos,
Yeah.
That girl gave me a lot of shit for living in my mom's basement, but it's pretty cool here.
Yeah, it's smart economics, guy.
She doesn't bother me.
I like the pairing of the characters that we've got going on.
Before we get off the sex thing, I was going to say, not to be crude, but wouldn't Odo kind of be a woman's best friend?
Yeah, I think we covered this whenever Deanna Troy's mother came. We talked about this.
Well, Majel Barrett, Luxana.
Yeah.
Yeah, she can have someone that fits her instead of having to shape herself to fit someone else's needs. Innuendo.
Yet again, I just think that like they're missing an opportunity to have some veiled fun comedy there.
Right, but they're setting up that he doesn't understand humanoids. Your humanoid desire for coupling is just how fascinating, he says sarcastically.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like anytime they have a special man say fascinating, they're making an allusion to Spock.
Yeah, I agree.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, you're right, but I didn't catch that, but you're right.
Right. And then there's a Bolian at the Jumjaw stand who apparently fancies Quark, which...
Mm-hmm.
Quark? You mean Odo?
I mean Odo. I get the slash pairings in my head. Not that there's...
They're a common pairing on the show, yes.
Yeah. Because they're foils to each other. No, there's the Bolian Jumjaw person that's has a thing for Odo, apparently. Yeah. Though the last time we saw the Jumjaw person, it was a racist Bajoran, so I guess they've had some turnover.
Yeah, I think they got rid of him after the blowing up plot of the end of the first season, maybe.
Yeah. Because Bolians are they... What race? Is that the Mott the Barber blue people race? I don't know. Nerd corner.
Yeah, maybe. But I thought Jumja was specifically a Bajoran thing.
Yeah, that was my little... I have a little, nitpick there, but who cares?
We're really excited to jump into the meat of this episode, aren't we, guys?
Yeah, sorry. Yeah.
See, I enjoyed this one. I like the pacing of it. I like the structure of it. Well, I think that if...
Wait. Those two things. Two things. Really? The pacing and the...
I think I would have on paper. I think on paper I liked it. And Robert Hewitt Wolf was the writer for this episode.
Yeah, it's a great writer. It's one of the great writers.
He's a great writer, yeah. And it felt like the A-plot felt almost like a modified Next Generation script.
Which it was.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I thought so.
It was actually a much cooler sounding script than this, and they ended up using it later, even though I don't remember the episode specifically, but it was originally pitched as an episode about O'Brien and Dax, for some reason, getting trapped in a prison in the... a holodeck prison and then they try to escape and they feel like they have escaped, but then they realize that through the whole escape, they were still in the hologram prison.
Oh, that's also like a Rick and Morty
yes.
episode.
It was later used. It was later adapted for Rick and Morty. No, and at the end, the episode would end as Robert Hewitt Wolf pitched it, as they would be safe back on DS9, but Inception. Were they really, like the end of Inception, where they really are, where they is still in the hologram prison.
Oh. And they use this later in DS9 because that does sound like a script we get a lot later with O'Brien.
Yeah, that's true.
But that's all I'll say.
But, well, the ramifications of doing something like that, season 2 into a series, you could have characters that are really screwed up for the rest of their lives.
Right.
And how could you really count on the person serving in any sort of paramilitary organization next to you? How can you, if they're constantly wondering if they're in the base reality that they think they're in?
Well, O'Brien could be worrying about that right now, whether or not he's a clone from some...
That's right. How do you not
not
alien species that may put him in. Yeah, and I love that episode, but it's like, oh, what's real, man? Though I will say that's a great pitch, and I'm glad they saved it for an episode in a later season, because that's
a better episode. Yeah.
What I say no more. That's a great pitch. That sounds like it would make a wonderful episode.
So we later on
leave it at that.
Yeah. So later on earlier on before we started the podcast, I called it Robert Hewitt Wolf's Notebook. And that's what I felt like, is it was just these three totally, like, I know we've had episodes before where the A plot and the B plot didn't seem to have any sort of connection or theme, but this was three totally unrelated things.
Yeah.
It almost was like a clip. Like, it was almost like Robert Hewitt Wolf went off and said, guys, don't worry about the next episode. I'll take that on me. Like, I don't have an idea, but I'll just, everybody's got, all hands on deck, and I'll do this, and this, and I'll
look at the fancy writer from Next Generation. Show us what you got.
I'll just shove a bunch of shit together, and this will be like a sort of a lower rung episode. But no, like, I think it's good. I think their scenes are good. I just thought the whole time, I'm just like, ugh, why are these things?
Yeah. I think we're getting a wider view of what's going on in the station. Each thing moves the ball down the field a little bit more on where the characters end up in the overall arc of the show.
Yeah.
And that's why I enjoy it. You get the beginnings of Jake and where he's going to end up, and why he's not like Wesley Crusher. Mm-hmm. And this is the genesis of that. So boom, you got that going on in the C storyline.
Yeah, good point.
The B storyline brings back Vedic Baral and how much of he's going to have to play a part in what's to come with Kira. So boom, you got that going on.
True.
The A plot reintroduces for the first time in like 3 episodes the Dominion and what they're capable of.
Yeah.
This guy, he's a refugee essentially of the Dominion, and it brings up again through the little girl the questions Odo has about his parents. So I think each plot, even though they seem random, what they're doing, they're just laying some groundwork for what's to come.
Yeah, I agree. Like, on paper, I think I really like a lot of what they're trying to do with this episode.
Yeah, you've made a case for it. Is that real character changes happen after one-off wheel spinning, a slew of one-off wheel spinning episodes.
After a slew of O'Brien only episodes. I feel like they took a break in the middle of season 2 to make it the O'Brien show. And I think it's nice that we're bringing the other characters back and kind of refocusing on where the show is going to go.
Mm-hmm.
Sure. You're right. But also, you just hate O'Brien. No, I know. We're back to Hugh hates O'Brien, aren't we?
But this is a classic where Robert Hewitt Wolf knows his continuity, because O'Brien was in Data's string quartet as the cellist.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
That was like that.
Because, all right, to just get through some of the plot stuff, Odo and Dax show up on a planet, they find a machine, and it's a murder mystery. It's like
people are disappearing on this.
She Wrote. It feels like Murder, She Wrote because it's old people and boring. But where are these disappearing people going from? They do all this stuff. The B and C plot are Kira and Quark and Jake and O'Brien and Cisco, because Cisco wants Jake to get a job.
Yeah.
Jake doesn't want to get a job, but hey, his best friend, the Ferengi kid, Nog, has a job.
Yeah, so, hey, we live in a post-capitalism world, Dad. Job. It seems kind of... So I understood.
Yeah, post-capitalism, but you got to pull your weight or find what you love. I think that's the whole idea. That's the economics in the Federation. Honestly, the ideal is that you find something that you love and you do it, and then you love doing it, and also that has something to contribute, hopefully, to the society. I mean, just from a nerd perspective, how would this thing work? And then there's a book called Trekonomics that goes into it, where it's a prestige-based economy, basically. But basically, the ideal of, and then that gets into the whole, well, your lower rung, your Lieutenant Barclays are just like worthless, whereas everybody in the Enterprise is hot shit because they're the best at what they do. They have the most prestige, they have the most capital in that kind of society. But whatever. Anyways, I get ahead of myself. That's a whole other podcast probably. The ideal is that you find something you love and you can just do that. And we get to that a little bit later when Jake is very nervous about telling his dad he doesn't want to join Starfleet because, the C plot with him and Cisco is that Cisco is going to make him get a job with Lieutenant O'Brien so that he can get into Fleet because
he can get into Star Trek. Dad, I don't want to join Star Trek.
Star Trek, yeah.
Yeah. When are you two going to get your kids into, your fathers? You got to start coercing them to get into Star Trek.
Yeah, I'm trying. No.
Right.
Yeah, no, and I like that. And I do think that the show just inherently over puffs up Starfleet, specifically through like all with the Next Generation, specifically with Wesley and how hard he worked to get in, and all of this stuff about how hard all of them worked is at some point a key element. I know Geordi has several episodes about that.
Mm-hmm.
And so the idea that you would have a son that just says, I'm not interested in that shit, I don't even know if I think he ends up being a poet, or I don't know what, I don't want to spoil, but
I know, but I'm not going to say.
He goes into an artistic trade.
Right.
And I think that the show has wired me to sort of think of him as a fuck up, that Jake is kind of a fuck up because he didn't go to Starfleet. He didn't even try, especially later, when a friend of his joined Starfleet and has, so like that was always sort of a thing, but they actually they addressed that here. He's just not.
Yeah.
It's interesting to me that you think that he's that way. I always felt it was sort of a relief that here's a kid. Like, it felt like a relief to me that he doesn't want, because it's.
No, I'm saying that I think the show conditioned me to feel that way.
No,
not that I naturally feel that way.
Yeah. I agree with you, and my whole preamble about the economics, the Federation is technically all about, is about finding something you love and being able to do that.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of all. That's not what the show pushes. The show pushes it being a fancy guy in Starfleet, but that's just like, how does that kind of post-scarcity economy work? What do people do?
Yeah.
I mean, the shows in general, most of Star Trek actually doesn't support that, but Deep Space Nine kind of does.
Yeah.
And even in this episode, I mean, find what you love and do that is the lesson. That's what Sisko at the end of that C-plot tells Jake to do, is like, oh, he's a little disappointed that he doesn't want to join Starfleet, but Jake is... jumping to the end, Jake is like, that's you, Dad. And he's like, okay, fine. You find what you want to love and you do the best that you can do at that. Which is a beautiful thing to tell your kid.
Exactly. In fact, that scene, talking about these conversations happening in a post-scarcity economy, the conversation that the story that O'Brien relates to Jake, almost felt so weird that I'm going to assume his hardscrabble Irish father was pushing him to be a cellist, and instead of that, he rebelled and went to fight the war. There's actually a Monty Python sketch about a playwright whose son wants to grow up to be a coal miner, and like the father doesn't. My son, he treats him like he's like some useless little pansy boy pussy who wants to go off and work with his hands. And there was playing with that sort of irony of like hard British fathers and punishing their children into doing some sort of trade instead of doing the arts. But this was like a father was like, I would really love you to be a cellist, and that strikes us as so weird because it's that's not the experience of most people in the scarcity economy that we live in.
Right. I want you to go to join the Aldebaran Music Academy. And he got in, but then he's like, fuck it, I'm going off to the Cardi front.
Yeah, he enlisted in the Cardi Wars. So that's the one time, and this is where I like this show, is that they know how their environment, their sort of continuity is different than ours, and they play with that. And they don't, and so it's pretty interesting that they seem to do that more on this show than on others.
Yeah, I agree. And then O'Brien's the one that gives Jake I guess we'll walk backwards through this C-plot. O'Brien's the one that tells Jake with his whole dad cellist story is like, hey man, you don't want to be an engineer. You don't have to, you just gotta be honest with your dad. Your dad's a cool guy. He'll understand. And then they have he's trying to teach him isolinear rods. And Jake is like, I can't get a grasp on this. It's like, it's pretty easy. I thought people were supposed to be real smart in the future.
It's color-coded.
Red rods are for library and information storage. White rods are for engineering systems controls. Blue rods we don't get to. But come on, kid. What are you, good dummy? You can't... And then O'Brien's like, I didn't figure that out until my second year of Starfleet. It's like, man, the computers must do everything because these people that's not complicated.
Having to dumb the basic things down to like,
That's the C-plot.
So no, I like this storyline, and I guess that to answer Hugh's point, I think that to some degree you're right. A show needs to just kind of push the ball along on some of these characters without it being a story, without it being a full 60-minute ordeal.
Yeah.
And I think that episodic television, like, Breaking Bad would do that, where there would just be a scene with Marie.
Right.
In like one episode. It wasn't a Marie story. There would just be, at some point, there'd be a Marie scene.
And that's what this is. It's like the connecting tissue. It's like, this is the elbow that connects two larger limbs.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
And later on, they might be okay just having it to be a connector, but this is an episodic TV show from the 90s, so they had to have an exploration A-plot, kind of thing. So they just go, and it's mid-season, they're probably looking to save money, so they go to another planet where the aliens are just guys in funny hats.
Beads.
And girls with
By the way, the
hair.
funniest fucking hats with like rosary beads.
Lots of beads. Yeah, they got rosaries in their hair, or in their hats, and bones in their hairs, or whatever Taya has, and all the women.
Yes. Oh, yeah, she does have these little bone things in her hair. Yeah.
Right.
So do we want to talk about the V plot and just get that over with and then end on the A plot?
Well,
or do we want to just do the A plot since it's the most boring, and then get to the B plot since it's
but it's boring, but also you get to see both Dax and Odo ply their trade together.
Yeah.
And I think that was kind of cool. It's nice to see Odo actually do some detective work after not doing detective work for this entire season.
Yeah, and we also get further along the more precocious Dax, even from the beginnings, where Odo is, he's a big prude. He's like, that's a personal question. And she's like, I've lived long enough. The polite questions are not any fun. I'm just going to come out and straight ask you, have you fucked?
Yeah. Yeah, that was great character stuff.
What did you say?
Oh, I'm just saying that was some great character interplay right there.
I thought so too. I thought so too. And I thought that it was like it helped inform her character.
Right.
Yeah, totally.
And she's just like, because they always do put her in she's the gossipy sort of sex relationship sort of thing, like where she's talking about everybody's romantic entanglements and whatnot. And I think that that's usually the trait of a character who's shallow, but she sort of raises it to an art form. It seems like they write it in a way where and that was a way to do it. It's just like, I've lived a long time, and to me, this is the only shit that matters.
Right.
Yeah. It's not,
and that was an interesting.
She's lived long enough that she's just a hedonist, which is, it's fine.
Yeah.
It's actually interesting.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, no. Okay, so we go there. They land on the planet. There's a mystery that Odo
There's a mystery machine. There's a mystery box, except I think we all figured it out pretty quickly, right?
Yeah. Once it was like, it was all pretty clear. I got sort of distracted by the beads. They were like, wear beads as like a wig or something.
Yeah,
and then they wear,
the men
like,
do.
Then they wear like Mujahideen hats over them, and it's all really... And all of the actors seemed oddly miscast. Like, it all just seemed like they were sort of white grandpa character actors. That was like...
Yeah, well, they seem like these are old dudes that had done TV acting on, like, Gunsmoke or something back in the day.
Yes.
That they're like, hey, we're Western. We're good at all these guys that just had, small roles on Westerns. They're like, what am I doing with this alien show? All right. They're just kind of boring. I don't know.
Was one of which was an actor who was a friend of Ira Stephen Bear's.
Oh, yeah.
Like, Ira Stephen Bear had worked with him before and really liked him. I think he was like a drinking buddy, maybe.
Huh.
So he fought to getting cast in the show. I think that was the main guy.
The main...
Grandpa.
The grandpa or the other sheriff in town?
I don't know. I didn't look it up.
Because the sheriff was slightly more interesting than the grandpa even. And nobody was bad. They were just TV boring. That was the way I thought.
Yeah, and the sheriff seemed oddly miscast because he always seemed like he was ready to like do like a little comedy bit. Like it always seemed
he's got the most comedy chops. I mean, he's Kenneth Mars from Young Frankenstein.
Oh, is he?
Yeah.
Oh, shit.
Yeah.
Look at you, Brigham. I didn't know who that was. But okay.
All
right.
How many times have you seen Young Frankenstein?
Not enough.
Oh, so many times. That's like that was one of the movies we had on VHS at my dad's house, so we would just watch over and over.
Yeah, it's like that when I was a kid and we had like 3 VHS tapes, and Young Frankenstein was one of them.
yeah.
Oh shit! And he was in Malcolm in the Middle too.
Yeah,
and he's in The Producers.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like
so
that guy's great. I thought that I liked that guy. And he
is also the voice of King Triton from Little Mermaid.
Right.
Oh, okay. Yeah, he's a kind of goofy guy, but he's entertaining to watch.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he had a magnetism. Like you get the feeling that he wasn't going to solve any mysteries, and that they clearly needed Odo's help.
Mm-hmm.
He did his job.
Yeah, he's just like a guy from Mayberry, know, kind of.
Right.
He's like an Andy Griffith, like bumbling kind of.
Yeah.
But
the friend of Ira Stephen Bear's was the other one. Was the Kenneth Tobey, who played Rurigan.
Rurigan.
So the main, the hologram.
Yeah,
guy, so.
Again, he was also fine. He's just kind of TV boring and like, oh, this is a guy that was on Gunsmoke or something.
Yeah, so they discover the mystery. Odo specifically bonds with this young girl whose mother was the last to disappear. And I will say that this whole storyline wasn't just completely bullshit, because there was a really sort of great scene between Renee Auberjonois and this little girl.
Yeah, that stuff was great.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think little kid actors, especially little kid actors on sort of syndicated television, you're not going to they're not picking from the best pool of quality actors here.
Yeah.
But it was a pretty long, extended scene, and she really sort of carries some weight to it, and he's really good. And it goes back to my point, something I made in the first season. I think Renee Auberjonois is probably just a really good scene partner.
Oh yeah. I imagine
like a really good, like a giving actor who like helps and sort of like, I think that like, because he seems to always have these moments where like even early when Nana Visitor was struggling in the first season, scenes with him were a little more calm, and we're a little better.
Yeah.
And so that seems like a thing that I get, that he just kind of brings, like as an actor, he brings the best out of people. And so that sort of scene was a really good scene, and was like a bonding scene of Odo bonding with a kid.
Yeah.
Which is the second time we've had that now, right?
Yeah, well, it also sets up thing in the Gamma Quadrant where they're scouting around. All these societies have these old folk tales about changelings, which is interesting.
Mm-hmm.
And then they mentioned the Dominion later on, which they've got Robert Hewitt Wolf, who apparently came up with the whole idea of the Dominion, and it becomes a huge thing. Yeah. Spoilers, there's a thing called the Dominion War.
Yeah. The Dominion's a big deal.
Yeah. If you know Star Trek, if you follow enough to listen to a DS9 podcast, you know there's a thing called the Dominion War, probably.
Yeah.
And that's all I'll say. But also, like way back in that season 1 Vortex episode, where we have the Odo storyline about the Space Mormons from the Gamma Quadrant. They don't mention the Dominion because they haven't thought it up yet, but they do have a whole thing about changelings being fairy tales and, oh no, changelings aren't real. No, but they are, apparently. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and I like that about this episode does a lot of things right. I just feel like the execution was just boring. And even the little girl, that she does a fine job, but it's a bias in me. Whenever I see little girls in shows, especially, it's like I think stage moms, and I just imagine that little girl like, when they go cut, she's like, "All right, you fucking bitches, where's my fucking craft services?" or something, just being like a huge, like so sweet on camera, but once the thing comes off, she just turns into a raging hell beast, kind of thing.
Is this any chance of this being a reoccurring character?
Exactly.
No, but I thought but that scene was pretty well focused, and it does bind the story, which is a pretty Star Trek-y story about tachyon fields and all antimatter, like it's
Omicron particles.
Yeah, Omicrons. Yeah, there is a lot of technobabble.
Right.
But it gives it a heart.
Yeah. That
it gives it like a human heart, that it is a story is about finding specifically this girl's mom. So.
Right. Yeah. And then turns out, it's all, they're all holograms because they can't go beyond the thing, beyond the perimeter. They disappear. They learn that with the little girl. My little bit of, I guess, angry nerd corner. We'll insert an angry nerd corner here. Maybe we'll have music at some point. And then I can find that.
It'll be some variation of that.
Yeah. So I don't know, actually. I didn't look it up. I don't know how the holodecks usually work, but in this instance, it's all Omicron field manipulation. If that's how regular holodecks work, why didn't they just figure this shit out immediately? They should have said, oh, there's a lot of Omicron particles down here. And then they get to a mystery. It's like, well, it must be a holodeck because these are clearly holograms. Okay, I don't know how it works. Maybe that's not how regular holosuites work, which is fine. I hope it's not. I hope they work through different whole things, and these are different kind of holograms, because I would like, angry nerd corner in me would like, if this is hologram situation, to have these holograms work differently than regular holograms, so that they're surprised by it, so that it makes sense that they don't figure it out immediately. That's all. Because they talk about Omicron particles for a while.
Now, Wade, have you seen all of Voyager?
I have maybe, but I need to rewatch the end because I don't remember it. So effectively, no.
I mean, but how well do you remember the middle stuff? I guess is what I'm like.
With the portable hollow emitter that the doctor,
or even like the doctor's life before the portable doctor, because I think the hollow emitter came like around season 3. It's like he spent the first 2 seasons not being able to go pretty much anywhere that wasn't already a holodeck.
Right, exactly, and that's how this thing works.
Right.
Except it's the emitter in the middle of town shoots it out. Yeah, all I wanted was if it to be a big mystery that they have to figure out, it should just work different than their regular holograms, because otherwise, why didn't they just figure it out immediately? That's all.
Well, they had to get through it because we have a whole B plot that they haven't even talked about. To rush through it.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
No,
Angry Nerd Corner's over. It's a small point. They just say, I would wanted them to be surprised.
Well, yeah. No, but I do think that there is a ongoing necessity among fans of the show, and I include myself in this group, of people who want the technobabble to at least conform to reality, at least be consistent throughout, the episodes in the year. So that I think that's an accurate point. And I think the show demands that of us. I mean, how many episodes deal with the warp drive and all of these sort of minutia of
tachyons?
So yes, I think that's a fine critique. But no, from that point on, I mean, it was just they find out everybody in the hologram, everybody there is a hologram. And they need to basically reboot their computer because there was a software update.
Have you tried turning it off and on and again?
Yeah. The man who built the hologram system thought he had kernel panic, but he didn't. Yeah. He just needed to reboot the system.
Right. Well, yeah, she had to fiddle around with it when it was off, but basically, they got to turn it off.
Yeah, but when she was doing the space equivalent of unplugging the cable for 10 seconds and then plugging it back in.
Right.
Yeah, and then so it comes back up and then the mom's there and everybody's there. They do realize that the main guy, the
Rurigan or whatever.
Mayor Rurigan is not a
hologram. He
was not a hologram. Yeah, so
he's lived there for 30
and
years.
That was actually I mean, even though it was a little bit predictable on our end, it was still like how they moved the camera. It was kind of a nice little reveal.
Yeah, he's standing behind
the other side of the
emitter or whatever.
Well, they moved the camera. Anytime they move the camera with a purpose and remember that it's a visual medium, I always feel like I have to give them like high marks.
That's true. Yeah. Good on you for remembering. Yeah.
Whenever they do something remotely film oriented. Yeah. So everybody's happy.
What was that?
He's basically resigned.
What was the name of that Breaking Bad episode that Ryan? What's his name?
The director of Episode 8 of Star Wars.
Yeah, he directed.
Ryan Johnson.
Yeah, that's right, Ryan Johnson. This is we don't ever get that level of television like film work ever. So
no, we do not.
It's sort of amazing.
So you have to take the quality.
Yeah, so it's sort of amazing that we have that now. You know what I mean? It's sort of amazing that he does like one episode of like visceral filmmaking for TV.
And then goes and makes Star Trek 8. Star Wars 8. Star Wars 8. So, yeah. No, I know. You think about like, I don't know, where like the things that Game of Thrones does with like action sequences and camera, that for the most part, I think we're living in an age where if you're watching a certain level of television, it's pretty
cinematic at this point.
It's not just cinematic, but it's pretty comparable to the cinematography of television. Or of movies.
Yeah, that's what I meant.
Except for our movies now have like superheroes fighting, lizards. Like, so it's almost everything's all bigger, but like still like there's not like a lighting issue. Like when Next Generation, the show jumped to Next Generation Generations, all the lighting changed and everything looked different because it's a movie. And I think now that's inconceivable.
Right.
Because television looks exactly like movies.
Right.
So
anyway, you guys were on to a better point, and I just got derailed by the fact that they actually moved the camera a little bit.
No, that's impressive for them. I don't know what point I was. I think that's the A plot.
Yeah.
Ta-da.
Ta-da. Well, at first, I guess the man was kind of resigned that the hologram system was broken and he was going to have to abandon everything that he knew.
Oh, right. And he's also from Dominion territory.
Yeah.
He didn't like what the Dominion did because it was a little oppressive, so he just found a secluded valley and created his own town. Wants to be sent back to what is it again? Yadera Prime, which is a Dominion occupied place somewhere. But they talk him out of it because Odo really came to love this little girl or like her, or, they are people, and it's, I mean, I don't know, it's kind of like it's like a Frank Capra kind of Odo has a Frank Capra, Jimmy Stewart kind of moment. It's like, no, but they are real. There is, maybe not our definition of life, but blah, blah. It felt like a Frank Capra kind of moment. Maybe it's because everything felt like old TV.
Yeah, and also, like, I don't think, like, this is well before Voyager started, so the idea that, I guess that they had Moriarty in the Next Generation, didn't they?
Yeah, they did.
Yeah, they already had that by this point.
They'd had several, they'd had so many hologram episodes, they've definitely had some where, well, this person is like a different form of life at this point.
I think by 94 they had about 2 Moriarty episodes.
Yeah.
You had the initial one, and then you had the one where he comes
back. They'd have, like, how many crew members fall in love with holograms? Right. I don't know.
That's true. Yeah, so that was that storyline. I mean, I guess that Odo shows her, there's a reoccurring thing about Odo not liking to show that he's a changeling because he still has that sort of shame from being like he was sort of used by
nobody loves him for him. They just want to see him do tricks.
Yeah, he was used for his entertainment value. And so at the end he shows her that he can turn into one of her little top toys that she was playing with.
Right,
it was cute and emotional.
Which is
it was a predictable but well-earned moment.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was fine. And then at the end, when he turns into it, it's like, oh, I know what the design of that top was about. It was about designing something that could be easily computer generated.
Yeah.
You're always looking at the crass backroom elements of these shows. Yeah, no. So that was that, and so that was a nice little ending to the storyline. Very TV ending.
Yeah.
But well earned. And now are we to the Kira portion of this?
Yeah, the B plot.
Oh, the vapors. Oh, man.
The vapors. She got the vapors?
She got the vapors.
I'm gonna go on a limb with this scene where it's saying that Odo wasn't exposed as the only virgin in this show. Because those kiss...
It's not Kira, but Vedic Baral.
That was the most awkward kiss I'd ever seen. Like, ever. What?
No, I mean, he's definitely awkward. I mean, okay. I liked that better, though, than the first. Okay, so...
Then their sex dream in the second season episode of the season?
Yeah. And yeah, so to just get this out of the way, Odo's gone from the station. Quark wants to run shenanigans. He knows Kira's going to be on his ass. There's a good scene between him and Kira where she's like, "I despise you. You were a Cardassian collaborator. Fuck you." And he just smiles because he's great. He's like, "Oh, sorry, I asked." It's like, "You don't like me?" He's like, and she basically flips him off. And then because his cousin Kono, who's a criminal that stole something from a museum on Cardassia 5, is coming to the station or trying to sneak in. So to distract Kira, he colludes to invite Vedic Baral up to distract her, and they get it on. But I like Vedic Baral. He's not doing a whole lot different than he was in his previous incarnation.
The script made him bring a little more personality.
Yeah.
And so he brought a little more personality.
Yeah. Which, though, he's better in this. Like, the last time he was just trying, I said it before, like, he's just trying to be Fox Mulder and kind of is like, okay. And then and this one, he's just like a awkward religious dude that's never been laid before.
Yeah.
Which makes more sense. He's like, hey, how's it going? I just up here to hang out.
I just wanted to. I thought you'd be. I was hoping you'd be happy to see me.
Yeah, and she falls for his sweet, innocent charm, which is okay, fine. And also, the prophets have foreseen that they're going to get it on.
Yeah, and they do a callback to that she's way much more religiously conservative than he is.
Yeah.
And she berates him for his sermon.
That was a good moment.
Yeah. So
right. Yeah, that was too.
Because she was a supporter of the Louise Fletcher character before she went all bomb crazy. Yeah, so like that was sort of well done.
Yeah, because he comes up to talk and he's like, "Well, did you like my sermon?" Basically, and she's like, "Oh, I liked all of it except for the content." Because your interpretation, because he's this liberal dude whose interpretations of the eighth prophecy are totally flip the head on what the general interpretation is. Which, there's Christian sects that do the same thing, like the more liberal ones that I generally kind of sympathize with more. They're like, like the whole the Romans anti-gay stuff is more about, sex in idols and stuff. But that's also another podcast.
The sex iconography of the Bajoran religion episode. No, so in the story, it turns out that Vedek Bareil was sort of coaxed to go in there by an inveterate gambler who owed Quark a lot of money. Kira puts it together that they got Bareil there to distract her while Quark tries to get away with shenanigans. So.
Right, because they both share a love for spring ball. And they go off to and like, oh, you love spring ball? Oh, me too. And then Bareil is like, well, do you want to go play spring ball with me? He's like, yeah, we can. And then they get back and they make out.
By the way, I'm loving your Bareil impersonation. Really way to bring it.
In this episode, it's just like, hey, how's it going? If you like me, I guess I like you too. but spring ball was interesting because it in my head, it reminded me of a thing that happens 10 years later where what's the name of the sport that they play in Battlestar Galactica?
Oh, I don't remember.
It's something else. It's not spring ball, but I just imagine spring ball being a lot like that.
Yeah. And I think they come back to spring ball later, don't they?
I don't remember, but that you were getting into the one thing I really like. I thought it was a little bit like Chekhov's gun, where you mentioned the gun, it needs to go off. Like, I need to see the spring ball. That's the one thing I was going to change. That's the one thing I was going to change.
But she wears that cool, bandana around her head, the green thing, after they get back.
That was pretty bitchin'.
Yeah, you got to see her in her space Lululemons. So relaxing after some spring ball. I don't know if I needed to see the spring ball or not. Maybe I did. That would be fun.
I don't know either.
So, my favorite moment of this whole storyline was because that kiss was awkward. But but my favorite thing is when they
but so was he at this point, so I was okay with it.
But when when she's told that he's on the ship, and you get like a long shot of her walking to the docking port or whatever, and I could just see her going like, "I'm gonna get some D." She had she had a little spring in her step. Like Kira was about to get some D. So
now you guys are picturing that the spring balls is just two people holding a spring in their hand and trying to hit a ball with it, right?
I don't know.
I imagine whatever it is that Starbuck plays on Battlestar Galactica. Honestly.
I don't remember but I can't get racquetball from when Bashir and O'Brien played racquetball.
Oh yeah,
I can't get that. I assume it just looks something like that.
I imagined it was like that, but handball. But honestly, like they play racquetball players in New York play. They don't, on the courts. They just do it with their hands.
Yeah.
Nobody plays racquetball.
See, this is where they've boxed themselves in a little bit. It's because it has to be something simple enough that a refugee can play.
Oh yeah.
Because it can't have a whole lot of complicated equipment or anything like that.
Yeah, that's true.
Right. And you talk about she's walks off I'm gonna get some D. That's how the episode closes.
Yeah. Okay. So that's what I was gonna ask. So when she's
Quark,
walking off from
she's
Quark,
I'm on to you, Quark.
So she's totally going to fuck him, right?
I found him very. Yeah. She's like,
this is that stage in their relationship,
or
right?
she's just walking him off the station at least. But he's like, oh, I see what she calls him out. I know what you did. You don't get what I know. Your cousin was on there. I'm gonna get you next time. Is basically she says, and he's like, well, life is full of disappointments.
Yeah,
and he says that disappointed as well because his scheme didn't go off.
Yeah. So she's rubbing it in his face that she both thwarted his shenanigans and she's gonna get it right here, baby.
Yeah. And she's like, I found him very diverting, and then she has a slow walk off to join him in arm, and she's like, yeah, and I'm gonna get some.
Yeah, she fucked him. She fucked him. I'm positive.
Which was great.
So I assume that there's because I know that later on, I'm just wondering if 2 episodes from now they have they consummate their relationship episode, but it looks like they fucked off camera. So
yeah, probably.
Yeah,
it's still 1994. They got to be a little demure about it.
Yeah. She can't literally sing "I'm about to get some D." So yeah, no. All
right.
Yeah. So I guess we can move into what we want to change.
Yeah, I already went. I told you guys what was on my mind. I need.
What was yours?
I need to see the spring ball. I was a little irritated.
Oh, you got to see the spring ball.
That's it.
Mine is pretty small. Mine is really small too. Is that I would have liked? I don't know. It just occurred to me when you have the hologram, because he's kind of like fat old guy who makes the hologram, and everybody there is kind of like fat old guys.
Mm-hmm.
if I could make a hologram world, I probably wouldn't be a fat old guy, and everybody else wouldn't be either. I don't know. Like, it seemed like they could have been like done a sort of an interesting thing where everybody's kind of beautiful. I don't know, and like has these sort of mesmerizing qualities because he's getting to make the world up as he wants. You know, he basically made a town.
Right.
He's living in Sims,
but
so like he gets to make the town up. So it seems like everybody would have been pretty, and then when they reboot the system, he's like a fat old guy. You know, like that would have been like sort of touching.
That he made it as he remembered everybody.
Oh,
like they're all based off people.
Yeah. Like if he were just going to do wish fulfillment, the episode would. I'm sorry, this is going to get very, very crude. They land on a planet. It's like, why is everybody sucking this one guy's dick? And that would be like well, you definitely couldn't do that in 1994.
No.
He's just an old man that wants to live like how he lived it.
Well, yeah,
not to be a god.
That's a good point. So he's recreating these sort of things, but he set them in motion to where they can breed and cross and all of that stuff. Yeah, you're right. It would have.
Right.
I don't know. That would have been
He's building Mayberry because he's an quaint old man that likes to watch Murder, She Wrote. And he's like, let me just build a small town around me.
He was very much.
He didn't build a whole lot of people of color, did he?
No, he didn't. It was all.
There was one or two.
Okay.
I think I saw.
All right.
But yeah, not so much. But yeah, I mean, that's kind of similar to my whole thing. I would change too, if that's all. Most of yours, James.
Yeah, that's it. That was the smallest thing I could come up with. Other than like maybe don't do 3 unconnected stories in an episode.
Right.
But I mean, Hugh convinced me that it had merit. So
right. Well, I have a couple of ways to do it. Like one, like on paper, I like everything that does and everything there. But it's basically a next generation story. You gotta spice it up a little bit. One, the aliens are fucking boring as hell. They're just humans with stupid hats and shit in their hair.
They're so boring.
It's really just a rehashed Next Generation episode you could have done in the A-plot. So at least make it visually entertaining. Like, make them weird-looking aliens, but I understand they're probably mid-season. They're looking to save money like they did on Move Along Home. That's probably why they're not very visually entertaining to look at.
In fact, the set is an old Next Generation set, so they didn't even have to build the set.
Yeah.
So,
right.
Yeah, this is definitely like a money...
So, I mean, I get it. Yeah, and also, just make it more... And also... all the actors are fine, but like I said before, they're just like TV boring of, like, I don't know. They felt like they were all from Bonanza or Gunsmoke or something. So like the acting was fine, but I would have liked something like younger people, a little bit more dynamic and energy, because they're just all old men going, what? Well, she's my granddaughter. I love, like nobody has a lot of energy in their performance.
Yeah.
So if we have the one we're working with, I would just have liked to have weirder looking aliens and more high octane acting from the director trying to get energy out of these people.
Yeah.
But the other thing I like, we talked about, this is like, we're getting character stuff. And if we're doing this as a modern TV kind of thing, instead of like an episodic thing, episode of the week or whatever, I would have liked to do just like a Breaking Bad or any of these like novelizations, kind of prestige television where they have the season is pumping along and everything's intense, and they decide, whoa, we need to slow it down, and this would be a slow down episode. But instead of don't even bother trying to take them anywhere. Just show, and even Battlestar tried to do this when they started trying to do episodic stuff in season 2 or 3, and I didn't like it. That was one of the problems with that show. But anyways, they tried to do a slice of life.
That was the long season 2, I believe.
But if you're just do a slice of life episode, like a fucking Quentin Tarantino screenplay where the first half of it, you're just hanging out with the characters. Don't make them go anywhere. Just like make this whole episode, we're going to just slow it down. And this is just what life on DS9 is like. And you can do like a shortcuts where you just have 5, the Robert Altman movie or, like any one of those where they're just like all these different things where they don't necessarily all come together, like it's just hanging out with the characters.
Yeah.
And then you get to learn about that and just just do one of those to slow down the season, and then you jump back into it.
Yeah, Mad Men and Game of Thrones do those kind of episodes where it's just like visiting, like touch pointing a bunch of random people, people just to get everybody in place for the big episode. Game of Thrones more than Mad Men, but like, yeah, that would have been a nice.
Yeah. So I mean, and I understand this is 1994.
Yeah, they weren't thinking it like that at all.
They don't do that kind of stuff, but. This is essentially that's what this episode is, because this is kind of boring. There's 3 plots, A, B, and C, which don't interact at all. So it feels like it's in the middle of the season. It feels like that's what they're trying to do, except they're beholden to this kind of episodic kind of format where they have to go off and explore something.
Yeah.
So just in a perfect world, if we were doing DS9 as maybe Brian Fuller's doing this new season, this is just a slowdown episode, and we just live with that. So that's what I would change. That's all I got.
Yeah. All right. Do you have any Amazon information for us?
Yes. Do you guys want to guess, or did you guys take a peek about what the star rating was on IMDb?
6.7.
I'm not gonna fight him on that. 6.7.
All right. Actually, this one was voted 540, which is pretty fair to Midland for the amount of votes, and it was 7.2 out of 10.
Okay.
All right.
People really, it's got some good stuff. People like it.
I guess the scene between Jake and the whole storyline with Jake is really, really nice. So I mean,
like it does.
That's quality.
It sets the stage for a lot of stuff, which that's what I'm saying. It's quality. It's just boring.
Yeah. If you were gonna cut together like 10 minutes of the best Jake, 5 minutes of the best Jake scenes in the whole show, that scene with him and his dad would probably be in there, It might be the first one. Yeah, but just to build a story. like 20 seconds, because there's some pretty good Jake stuff coming up. Yeah, you're right. He gets whole episodes later. But I mean, that he's choosing not to go to Starfleet, that's a defining characteristic of him. So Yeah. So in a 5-minute YouTube clip, you'd have one shot of him in his onesie from Emissary, just being a little sailor boy or whatever, and then you jump straight to this and say, no, I don't want to. Yeah. Or the self-sealing sim boats and then this. Right. Self-stealing sim bolts and then I Miss Her Too, Dad. Yes. From that throwaway episode we had where they talk about dead Jennifer. That was
and wait a minute, he's got to be hanging his feet off the promenade.
Oh yeah, that's your starter. That's the beginning. Sucking on a jump stick. That episode where he tells his dad I miss her too. That was the worst episode of the season. Yeah. So far. So I'm putting my pin in that. But otherwise than that, rules of acquisition. There's, never mind. Yeah. We won't get into that. I think we're at a good stopping point. We'll have a whole podcast on these. So, all right. Are we done?
All right, guys. Yep. I think that about covers it for on my end. You guys got anything else to close it out?
Nope.
All right. Well, 3 to beam out.
Okay.
Beep.
That was Shadowplay from October of 2016. Right now, I am recording October 1st, 2021. Thanks for listening. I hope you enjoyed that episode. A few things right off the bat. Bolians. Of course, they are the blue-skinned aliens with the thing going down the middle of their face. There's a lot of information about the Bolians on Memory Alpha, but I think the most interesting piece of information is the fact that Bolians are named after Cliff Bole, who directed the first Star Trek The Next Generation episode to feature the species, which was Conspiracy. That's the name of that episode. Bolians were first identified by the name in Allegiance. The Cliff of Bole mentioned in Invasive Procedures are further play on his name. So, that's interesting. People who made Star Trek must have really liked Cliff Bole. Pretty cool little tidbit there, I think. Okay, we also mentioned the runabout speed in this episode, and I did a little bit of research and found out that runabouts can go up to warp 5. So, there's that. We talked about holographic characters in this and supposed that Moriarty had already been introduced at this point in the series. Moriarty was in the episode Elementary Dear Data, which originally aired December 5th, 1988. And then he came back way back later, January 25th, 1993. So yeah, he had made 2 appearances by the time that Shadowplay had gone to air. Which, like we said, it was February 20th, 1994 when Shadowplay came to air. So anyway, yeah, plenty of precedent set for self-aware holograms in Star Trek, and much more hologram shenanigans after this episode too, with Voyager, etc. All right, well, that's it for this week. I hope you join us next time for another remix. If you like the show, you might be interested to hear our conversations on other sci-fi stories like Dune or Foundation. You can find that on our Patreon, which is at Patreon/Kickers of Elves, or just Google Kickers of Elves. You can do that too. All right. Thanks for listening. Wanted to beam out.
Did you know that some Deep Space Nine podcasts piss you off? Please review us, please follow us, please excuse us, please feel loved sometimes. Excuse me, I need a defrag. Cause this little robot looks so good I might just start Bluetooth syncing. I can't help it with beautiful robots, I just start syncing with them. And they let me. When you are on a Deep Space Nine podcast, they let you. Sometimes I just grab them in their data port. Where is the handle for this door?